Linda. How are you doing?
They were Tucson.
Nice.
You know who you are now? Yeah, I know my name now. Oh, good.
Brian Payne.
Nice to meet you.
Kevin Smith.
I know that.
You know him?
I know him.
Deborah Long?
I know.
Lynn Carroll?
Roger Summing.
Jeff Fawcett.
Danny Faulkner?
Melvin 3, right?
It's nice to meet all of y'all.
Well, and you're welcome to take a seat. What, this is
I'll probably be pacing a little bit.
Okay. And we don't have a questionnaire from you, and we'll talk
Yeah, we
about
do.
that later. Yeah, we do.
Yes, we do.
I didn't get one.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
send that one?
I didn't get one either.
I sent it out to everybody.
I got it. I didn't get one either.
Okay.
I got it.
Well,
Yes, it is.
Comporium's fault.
whoever you, whichever organization, you with the Sun City, they were supposed to give you copies.
No, I didn't get his.
You didn't get it.
I don't think. Now, wait a second. We're sitting here saying
just
this.
looked at it.
Copies.
Oh, we got, it's all right.
Make
So,
sure we did.
this process is very informal. What we'd like you to do is
Yes, we
to
did get it,
open up,
Lynn.
few
We,
minutes, tell us who you are,
Diane did not make a mistake. We missed it.
Well, hey, I have made other mistakes.
There you go.
All right, sounds good.
That's okay.
Well, again, my name is Brian Carnes. I am a lifelong resident of the Indian land. My father said when he came to Indian land there were no Carneses, and by the time he got through, there was quite a population of us here. So I have 4 brothers, and we all still live here in Indian land, and we like calling Indian land home. It's a great community as well as Lancaster County. I am connected to York County as well. I have a business there on Dave Lyle Boulevard, and also co-own a business with my brother here in Indian land. I am married, and I have 3 sons. The youngest one, 22, the middle one, 25, and the oldest one is getting ready to turn 28. And 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way. And I discovered what children were for when we had grandchildren. They are wonderful. If you don't have any, I highly recommend it. The reason I'm running is, I guess I was one of those people that stood on the sideline. I have served on the school board for 8 years. And, after my terms on the school board, I was on the sideline and, complaining about what was going on in the world of politics and in our state. And when this opportunity opened up, I decided that, it's time to stop complaining and put my words where, myself where my words are and, try to make a difference. So that's why I'm thinking about running is that, I want to make a difference for this community. And I want to make a difference for our state. We all know that the dire situations that we've come through, and hopefully the sun is coming up on the horizon, and things are going to look better. But we need good, strong leadership. We need small business people participating in our government because small business is the backbone of this country. And it's also where the jobs are created at, and we need to make sure that they are strong, and so that's why I'm running. So I am ready to go.
Go ahead. The question I have, a couple of days ago, I was reading Forbes a magazine, and it said that Columbia, South Carolina was the worst place in the country to find a job, and if you were to get in office, what would you do to try to change that?
Well, to change that, there is a lot of misconception about our area. I think Columbia is a pretty dynamic area. My son just graduated from USC, so we've had some relationships there over the last few years, and it depends on what kind of jobs they're talking about there. But to your point, to change that, we've got to change a lot of things in our state to help improve that. We need to change our tax structure, make it more business friendly, and in order to attract those companies in that will provide jobs. And we need to support the businesses that we've got out there by trying to wipe out some of those levels of bureaucratic control and all the things that the regulations that come there. You know, I'm not talking about life safety issue regulations. You know, we need to have that because we need to have a safe workplace, but there are a lot of regulations that are there that really hurt business and not encourage it. And we really need to be encouraging business and the right kind of business. You know, we need to have businesses that are coming in that can supply jobs to the people that we have available to provide those jobs. You know, it's great to have a Boeing come in, but if we don't have a workforce that's there to be able to take advantage of that, then, you know, we're not doing very well. We've got to be able to use the skills of the people that we've got.
Go ahead.
Right. I was talking to my brother-in-law the other day and been on the school board. South Carolina has got a bad reputation for education. And he was mentioning that there's some counties that have 5 school districts.
That's correct.
How in the world can a state have districts like that? What is the problem and what can be done about it? Obviously, there's a lot of money that's being wasted on 5 school districts in one county.
If you look at, there are 86 school districts in the state of South Carolina. We have 46 counties, so you know you can do the math. I know Lancaster County has about 13,500 or so students, and they're in the top 15 in size of districts. So you know, as you go down from there, you've got districts that have 5,000 children, some have 4,000 children. And you've got so much duplication of service when you're doing that because each one's got to have a superintendent, each one's got to have a purchasing staff, each one's got to have a support staff in place.
How can it be changed?
Well, to change it, we've got to stand up and do what may not be the politically correct thing and say, you know, we need to consolidate these school districts. We need to get rid of some of this overhead. We need to get rid of some of the cost out of the system. You know, you look at York County has 4 school districts now. Obviously, their districts, Rock Hill and York and Clover, I think Fort Mill's probably the smallest district. But, you know, you got to step up to the plate, and the State Department of Education, as well as the legislature, has to step up and say we're going to consolidate some of the school districts and cut some of this cost out in order to put more money back into the classroom.
Are you willing to lead that effort?
I will be glad to lead that effort.
So how do you do that, though? I mean, you say Lancaster County's got 13,000 students, but Fort Mill's got 8,000. Fort Mill's is small with 8,000.
Yes. And again, it goes back to the legislature. The legislature is the one that sets the school districts and, you know, is allowed to empower the school districts.
So where do you draw the line that says you're too small and you're too big? You know, we're going to roll you into the next guy over. We're going to roll Fort Mill into Rock Hill.
You know, in an ideal world, every county would be one school district.
Sort of like Mecklenburg County.
Right.
And Chester County.
And Lancaster County. You know, there's a number of the counties in the state that are a unified school district. There's only one in there. Again, you know, there's a lot of political heartburn out there in proposing that.
Go ahead, Mark.
On your survey or the questionnaire we sent out, I
Yes,
noticed
sir.
on the part where you select I disagree, I moderately disagree, I strongly disagree. On the one competition will only harm public education. You selected I moderately agree, disagree. You're right in the middle on that. In what ways do you think, and I'm asking you for your opinion, in what ways do you think that competition would hurt our public education?
I don't think competition will hurt public education, but I'm not a big proponent of choice of, you know, vouchers, and that's why I went down the middle. So, you know, I think competition helps public education, and we need to create competition within the public education system itself. And we can do that by getting in good teachers that are practicing good teaching methods, that are being rewarded for their teaching methods. We need to look at the system that's in place right now. From my time on the school board, I can tell you that to get rid of a teacher that is not performing takes an act of a principal basically dedicating their time for over a year to work with that teacher, document the problems that he's got with that teacher, and then hopefully he'll be able to get rid of that teacher. And you know, all of that is built up in the State Department of Education and comes down to the school districts. You know, I have people asking me, why do we have 4 assistant principals at the high school in Fort Mill? It's all about numbers. It's, you know, that's what the State Department of Education says is the ratio that you should have students to an administrator.
Why are you opposed to vouchers?
I am a big proponent of public education, and you know, I'm not saying that I'm opposed to it, but I have not seen the numbers of how it's going to work. If somebody can show me exactly how it's going to work and how it's going to be paid for and how it's going to affect everything, then you know, I'm about the numbers, and I'll be glad to take a look at it and say I've changed my mind. But you know, I need to see it on paper, and I need to see how it's going to work. Yes, sir.
Ron, thank you for your willingness to serve. I want to ask you a question about the art of persuasion. There's a time, I guess, if we're going to serve in any kind of capacity, you on the school board and of course in your business as well, there had to have been a time when you were on the other side of the fence from some of the other members of that organization. If you can come up with a specific situation or specific issue where you found yourself having to influence or persuade others to move off the dime, get off the fence, come in your direction, I'd appreciate hearing about that. What was the issue? What was the process that you used for getting there?
I don't recall a specific issue, but I can tell you that if you talk to anybody that was on the school board with me, they can tell you that I was the one that sat back, listened to the conversation, and came up with the working solution to bridge the gap between the people and the people in the rooms. You know, and that's part of the art of persuasion, is listening and figuring out, you know, how are we going to make this work? You know, how am I going to stay true to my values and what I believe, but how can I bring this group and that group together, and let's forge a solution that works, maybe not for everybody, but works for the majority of the people, because, you know, the majority is going to move it forward.
Okay, I have to answer this question.
Yes, sir.
I have just found out that at least one of the school districts in York County, I believe it's the Rock Hill School District, is going to buy 40,000 iPads for students at $599 a piece, so the kids can learn. Now, I went to school in the 60s and 70s, and I read from a textbook.
I did too.
And I looked at a chalkboard. And not only that, but a couple of years ago, they spent $1,000 per classroom in the entire district to put in what they call phonic ears, which is a necklace-worn microphone by the teacher, a wireless system, and quadraphonic speakers in the corners of the room. Now that to me is waste, because teachers have always been able to talk loud enough in a classroom to be heard by their students. So what do you suggest we do about this crap?
Well, not having read that particular, or knew about
I don't mean to sugarcoat it.
So you're a technology pro.
I would venture to guess, just to throw out a guess, and then I'll answer your question, is there was probably either a federal grant or a grant from somebody else that they're using that money for.
Oh, so it's free money?
No, it's not free money. It came out of my pocket and your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
For the stimulus.
But we are in a technological world, and we do need to provide those technological skills to children. Giving them an iPad I don't think it's the best use of teaching them about technology. It's more about teaching them about what they already know about anyway. I mean, I know my kids know all about iPods, and my wife got an iPad for Christmas, and they're all begging her for the opportunity to use it so they can get their tunes and whatever else on it. But again, education sometimes, or quite often, is about what the latest fad is, and to change that, we've got to change the thinking of the leadership at the top all the way down through the organization. And again, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. I've been reading about the lady that was the school superintendent in Washington, D.C., and some of the ideas that she's had for changing, that she used in D.C. to change up public education there. She's not the chancellor anymore. She's, she was in a Democratic administration up there, so that may not be the right thing to propose or talk about in this room, but she got results because she came in and said, I'm not going to stand for low-quality teachers. Children can learn, and we need to have teachers that are committed to helping them learn. And if you're not committed to helping them learn and you're not committed to excellence, then you need to be committed to finding another job. And their test scores have gone from the bottom of the pack up to the middle of the pack in less than 3 years. So it does show that if you have an emphasis on quality and on excellence, and it comes from the leadership down, that it does make a difference.
Is merit pay a possible solution, or a piece of that solution?
What's that?
Merit pay.
Merit pay, that was part of her solution. Is that if you were a good teacher and you were rated as a good teacher, then you got extra pay. And if you were not rated as a good teacher, you're rated as a poor teacher, then you got the door. That's hard to do.
Diane.
Yeah, along that subject, Brian, I was wondering, what do you say to the parents of children in a failing school here in South Carolina? If school choice, in your mind, means vouchers, but could it mean other things as well?
From a public school education, there should be school choice. Again, what you get into, though, is you get that headbutting. That next school is full to capacity. And, how are you going to tell the kids that are going to that school that they can't go to that school anymore, that they're going to have to go to another school because you got children from this school? I read an interesting article on the internet today that was about a thing they have in California now, that if you have a failing school district, the parents can get together and they can file a complaint with the State Department of Education there in California, and they have to send a team in to help pull that school up. Now, the bad side to that was that they were talking about this one school district that they had done that, and they had such a backlash from the teachers and administrators at that school that it was actually quite frightening, because they were trying to intimidate the parents to actually take their names off the list so that the state would not come in and start working with the school district. So, that's bad.
There's samples of that in South Carolina too. James Island Charter High School. You might want to research that.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Brian. Moving on from the school district, job creation and jobs and unemployment is probably the single most apparent problem in South Carolina today that affects almost every element of our life. What are the key elements that you see as to creating jobs here that employs people here in York and Lancaster County, and versus bringing them in? That was from an earlier discussion where I said I was specifically for Lancaster, and I got chastised for it. But anyway, but to bring jobs here to employ people here, it's great to bring a company in, but if they fly employees, then it does us no good.
I agree with you. I had the opportunity to meet with our economic development director this week in Lancaster County because I wanted to talk to him about the economic development process. And one of the things that I found interesting in the conversation was, he was discussing his relationship with the One Stop, the WIA, and the agencies that are responsible for training people and retraining people for jobs. And they think that they are successful by the number of people they put through the system. And to me, you measure success by how many people got a job after they went through the system. And so that's one of the things we need to change the emphasis on, is on the training. Is, once somebody goes through for training, number one, we got to make sure they're getting the right training, because that was another problem, is they're not even going out and talking to employers about what they need, what needs to happen. They're training people and they're hoping those people are going to fall in and get a job. He gave me an instance. There's a company that's just moved into the old HSBC building, SOI, which is a professional employment organization. We use them for our benefits and our payroll. I know the company personally, and it's a good company. They're going to add about 30 people in the next couple of months to their payroll here. They moved here from Charlotte, but they want to hire people locally. The lady from the One Stop went up there and toured with him. She didn't even know about those jobs that were going to be coming open. And she's got people in Lancaster that have worked in HR and in payroll and all the kind of jobs that they're looking to fill, but she's not even informed and she's not even working with them. So for us to increase employment down there, we've got to change that kind of attitude, and we've got to be able to start producing people that can take these jobs. I mean, there's been a lot in the paper about what's happened up at Red Venture. They've hired 300 or 400 people since they've got down here, and about 30 of those have come from Lancaster County.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, let's the Senate, if I'm looking for a job, want to work for IBM, I go and study, understand what IBM does, what departments are within the company and where I want to focus. In saying that, you've never ran for public service. You've only been involved in the party, look like, since December, if I understand that correctly. Have you studied, do you understand the rules of the Senate, how a senator can be affected? What's the protocol there? And then the second part, how will you influence those other senators? And have you contacted the senators that will be your peers within York County, Lancaster County, being West Hayes and Harvey Peeler, and understand from their view what's important? And as Glenda pointed out earlier, 300 plus pre-filed bills, what's your thought around how those should be prioritized? So I know it's 3-4 part question, but probably the most and basic to me, have you looked at, understood the Senate, how senators are affected, because they're big egos over there, and how you will go in and help influence and push for York County and Lancaster County?
I am looking at that. I can't say that I am a educated student of it, but I am researching that. And as far as how to work with them, you've got to go down and get into the flow of the things, and then get started introducing yourself. You've got to start networking. You've got to find people that have similar interests to you so that you can use them to be able to influence other people. It's just like, to me, it's just like, when I'm in my business and I'm trying to influence somebody to do something for me, I've got to work the room. I've got to work with the people that are there to be able to make things happen. I have not talked to Wes and Harvey, but I will make it a point to call them this week and talk to them if I can get a hold of them. And because they're getting ready to head to Columbia here shortly, so I'm sure they're probably getting ready to be very busy. Did that answer all of your question?
Yeah, it does, but so I guess, what are you selling? How are you going to convince voters that you're the right person for this job? Just very basically. I mean, how do you sell your experience, your knowledge? And maybe that's too broad of a question. And if you don't feel comfortable answering that now.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, and there is one person that's in the race now that knows all of that. But, you know, what happened when the first politician ran for office? You know, he didn't know all the things that were going to go on. You know, I'm sure that when Deborah ran for the House, she didn't know everything that she was getting into.
Yeah.
You know, some of it's learning on the job.
And you're right, and forgive me if that's what, if it came across that I'm insinuating you should know everything, but the basic things, that's all I was
I
asking.
should ask it this way. Deborah was smart enough to not run for this seat. Now, what's that?
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
You've been campaigning nearly as long as Hugh Mobley was. How does Greg Gregory's surprised announcement change his race?
It makes it a little different, but Greg's been out of office for 2 years now. He hasn't run since 2004. The districts that he ran in are totally different than when he ran in 2004. So, you know, it's still, to me, pretty much an open race. It's going to be about who gets out and works the hardest, who gets out and makes themselves available to the public, you know, who's going to put the effort into it. And I'm not saying that he's not going to do it or anybody else in the race is not going to do it, but, you know, I'm planning on doing it because, you know, I've got into this to win it, and I'm planning on doing that.
Okay, so here's my question. Now you live you work in York County. You live in Indian Land, so Indian Land is Lancaster County, right?
That's correct.
So you're in Lancaster County side. Do you consider this a York County seat or a Lancaster County seat?
I think it's a Lancaster and York County seat.
What would you do to convince people? Because, okay, I'm going to say, look at the room. There's the Lancaster side, there's the York County side. I mean, even the people without even knowing it, all good people lined up.
Hey, this was the only seat left when I came. And you're sort of in the middle. Yeah.
So how do you convince, you know, when I talked to Mick Mulvaney the night of his victory party, and he said, you know, a York County person can win the primary because of the sheer numbers of Republican primary voters in York County, but Lancaster voters, when it comes to the general election, and there will be a general election, and with Keith Brand getting on the Democrat side, Lancaster voters tend to vote Lancaster County regardless of party. That was Mick's suggestion. So what does that, because you're Indian Land, I mean, maybe you're the best candidate. Well, on this topic, maybe you are.
I feel like I'm the best candidate because I am connected to both counties. I mean, I've lived in Indian Land all my life, but, you know, when I was a kid, we went to Fort Mill, we shopped, we knew the people in Fort Mill, you know. Unfortunately for us here in Indian Land, Lancaster's 20 plus miles away and Fort Mill's 5 or 6 miles away. So, you know, there's a connection there. There's always been a connection.
It's a big district, too. You know where Flat Creek is?
I know where Flat Creek is. I have family that lives in Flat Creek. I know where Buford is. We played them many times in sports, and, you know, I know all of those areas.
One last question. No, that's it. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Personally, I would say where the person from, as long as it's orange under their name.
Will you be at the Indian Land?
What's
I wanted to break the divide. My first point of asking that question was to get rid of the divide.